For 5 years, my boss thrived on fear, insults, and control, telling me I wasn't cut out for responsibility. Then one day, life flipped the script. Her arrest and downfall became the backdrop for my quiet revenge and the lesson that true leadership is about integrity, not power. Before going forward in the story, please subscribe my channel and like and share this video.
I worked under my former boss for 5 long years. 5 years may not sound like much to some people, but when you spend that time walking on eggshells every single day, it feels like a lifetime. I'll call her Jay. When I first took the job, I was honestly excited. The position involved working with young children with disabilities. It wasn't just a job to me, it felt like a purpose. I cared deeply about those kids. They needed patience, structure, and support. I believed in the program, I believed in the mission, and in the beginning, I even tried to believe in Jay. That didn't last long. At first, the issues seemed small, annoying, but manageable. She wouldn't respond to emails for days, sometimes weeks. Important questions about scheduling, supplies, or student needs would just sit in her inbox unanswered. I'd send follow-ups, politely checking in. Nothing. We were supposed to provide certain materials for the children, sensory tools, learning supports, basic classroom supplies, things that were clearly outlined in the program requirements. But somehow, those items were always back-ordered, under review, or not in the budget. Meanwhile, parents were asking where the supports were. Staff members were asking how they were supposed to run effective sessions without the right tools. And I was stuck in the middle, trying to keep everything afloat. Whenever I brought concerns to Jay, she would wave her hand like I was being dramatic. "Be your own problem solver," she'd say. That phrase became her favorite shield. It didn't matter what the issue was. Broken equipment? Be your own problem solver. Missing curriculum materials? Be your own problem solver. A parent filing a formal complaint? You guessed it. Be your own problem solver. Over time, the small problems started stacking up. Then, the bigger ones came. One day, she called me into her office and accused me of breaking multiple student iPads. She didn't ask if I knew what happened. She didn't investigate. She simply said, "You need to take responsibility for your actions." I was stunned. I hadn't even touched the devices in question. When I tried to explain, she cut me off. "I pay you, you do what I want." That was another favorite line of hers. It didn't matter that we were dealing with children. It didn't matter that there were policies, ethics, and laws involved. In her mind, authority meant control, and control meant obedience. There were times she would ask me to do things that I knew were wrong, not questionable, not gray area, straight up illegal, things that would put our students at risk or violate regulations. When I refused, she'd lean back in her chair and smirk. "If you don't like it, go work at Walmart." As if caring about ethics made me disposable. The worst moments, though, weren't about me. They were about the kids. There were instances where staff reported possible abuse concerns. These weren't rumors. These were serious, documented concerns that legally required follow-up. We brought them to Jay immediately. She didn't respond. Days passed. When I pressed her, explaining that mandated reporting laws were clear, she laughed. Actually laughed. "You're being dramatic," she said. I remember sitting in my car that night after work, gripping the steering wheel so hard my hands hurt. I had gotten into this field to protect vulnerable children, and here I was, working under someone who treated their safety like an inconvenience. But I stayed. For 5 years, I stayed. Part of me believed things would get better. Part of me didn't want to abandon the staff I supervised. They were incredible people, compassionate, hardworking, and constantly stressed because of Jay's behavior. She made grown adults cry weekly. I'm not exaggerating. There were meetings where she would single someone out, criticize them harshly in front of everyone, and then dismiss their feelings when they became upset. "That's why you're not the boss," she'd snap. The power trips were constant. I started losing sleep. My anxiety was through the roof. I'd draft emails to HR in my head, but never send them. I worried about retaliation, worried about making things worse for my team. Still, I tried to stay professional. Then came the moment I knew I was done. It wasn't a dramatic explosion. It was a quiet realization. I had started dreading Sunday nights so much that I felt physically sick. I wasn't the same person anymore. I was drained, angry, and exhausted. I gave my notice. When I told Jay, she barely looked up from her computer. "Not everyone is cut out for this level of responsibility," she said flatly. No thank you, no acknowledgement of 5 years of work, just that. My last day was completely different. My colleagues surprised me with a small party. Nothing fancy, just snacks, balloons, and a card they had all signed. There were hugs, a few tears, words like leader, support, and "we're going to miss you." For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. Then someone handed me the card. I flipped through the heartfelt messages from my team, and there it was, Jay's handwriting at the bottom. "Not everyone is cut out for this level of responsibility. Good luck, Jay." No warmth, no class, just a final jab. I laughed when I read it, not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable. That was her. Even in goodbye, she needed the last word. I left that building feeling lighter than I had in years. I didn't know exactly what was next, but I knew one thing for sure. I would never let someone talk down to me like that again. And honestly, I thought that was the end of the story. I had no idea that 5 years later, the universe would hand me the most ironic twist I could imagine.
After I mailed the card, I didn't expect fireworks. I wasn't waiting for some dramatic reaction. No angry phone call, no long message. Honestly, I didn't even know if she would open it right away. But just knowing it was on its way felt satisfying. For years, I had walked away from conversations with her feeling small. This time, I felt calm. A few days passed. Nothing happened. Life went on. I went to work. I had dinner with friends. I ran errands. But in the back of my mind, I kept picturing it, the moment she would open that envelope. I imagined her flipping the card open casually at first, maybe assuming it was from a friend or distant relative offering support, then reading the line. That line, the same one she wrote to me. I didn't need to see her reaction to know it would land. By the end of the week, I got another text from one of my former coworkers. "Things are wild here." I hesitated before responding. I had promised myself I wouldn't get pulled back into the chaos, but curiosity won. "What happened?" I asked. She sent a voice message. Apparently, Jay had returned to work after her arrest, trying to act like nothing happened. No explanation, no acknowledgement, just business as usual. But the staff had seen the mugshot. Parents had seen it too. In a field where you work with vulnerable children, trust matters, reputation matters. And suddenly, the person who used to bark about professional standards was the center of whispered conversations. According to my friend, Jay was more irritable than ever, snapping at people, short-tempered, paranoid about who was talking to whom. That didn't surprise me. When someone builds their identity around authority, losing control shakes them hard. Then came the part that made me sit up. "She got a card in the mail," my coworker said in the message. "No name, just wow." I felt my heart jump a little. "What do you mean?" I typed back. "She was in her office with the door open. I didn't see it, but I heard her say, 'Are you kidding me?' And then she slammed the door." I didn't respond right away. I didn't need to. A few minutes later, another message came through. I don't know who sent it, but whoever did, that was savage. I couldn't help smiling. Not because I wanted her suffering, not because I enjoyed cruelty, but because for once, she felt what it was like to have her own words thrown back at her. For 5 years, she spoke without thinking about impact. She dismissed feelings, she minimized concerns, she used sharp words like tools. Now, a single sentence had rattled her. It was almost poetic. Over the next couple of weeks, I heard bits and pieces through the grapevine. Nothing official, just whispers.
Parents were asking questions. Administration above her had started looking into things more closely. The DWI had triggered a review. In our field, even something unrelated to work can raise concerns about judgment. The irony wasn't lost on me. Judgment, responsibility, accountability, the very things she claimed other people lacked. One evening, I ran into another former colleague at a coffee shop. We hugged and caught up. Eventually, the conversation drifted to Jay, because somehow it always did. "She's under a lot of pressure," my colleague said carefully. "They're reviewing past complaints now." My stomach flipped. Past complaints? There had been many. Some I knew about, some I probably didn't. For years, concerns had been brushed aside, emails unanswered, reports delayed. Now, suddenly, people were digging. And when people start digging, they tend to find things. I drove home that night thinking about how different everything felt. When I worked there, raising concerns felt pointless, like shouting into the wind. Now, without me doing anything except sending one card, the system was moving. I didn't fool myself into thinking I caused it. The arrest did that. Her own choices did that. But sometimes a small reminder at the right moment hits harder than a big confrontation. A few days later, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. For a split second, my heart raced. I almost didn't answer, but I did. "Hello?" Silence. Then a familiar voice. "You think you're funny?" It was her, Jay. Her tone was tight, controlled, but underneath it I could hear something else. Shaken. I didn't respond immediately. I let the silence stretch just enough. "I'm not sure what you mean," I said calmly. "You sent that card." It wasn't a question. I kept my voice steady. "I sent a lot of emails over the years that you didn't respond to. Which card are you referring to?" She exhaled sharply. "This is inappropriate." "Inappropriate?" I repeated softly. "You need to grow up," she snapped. And there it was, the same old script. Except this time, it didn't land the same. I wasn't sitting in her office. I wasn't under her authority. She couldn't threaten my job. She couldn't belittle me in front of staff. She was just a person on the other end of a phone line. "You once told me not everyone is cut out for responsibility. I was just wishing you good luck." Silence again, longer this time. Then she said something I never expected. "You have no idea what I'm dealing with." For a second, I almost felt sympathy. Almost. But then I remembered the times I had tried to explain what I was dealing with, the stress, the legal concerns, the fear for the kids, and how she laughed. "I hope you figure it out," I said simply. Then I ended the call. My hands were shaking a little after, not from fear, from adrenaline. It's strange how old power dynamics can still echo in your body. But as the minutes passed, the shaking faded. What stayed was clarity. For years, I thought standing up to her would require a dramatic confrontation, a huge speech, a formal complaint that would blow everything up. Instead, it took one sentence, one mirror held up to her own words. I didn't need to see her reaction to know it would land. By the end of the week, I got another text from one of my former coworkers. "Things are wild here." I hesitated before responding. I had promised myself I wouldn't get pulled back into the chaos, but curiosity won. "What happened?" I asked. She sent a voice message. Apparently, Jay had returned to work after her arrest, trying to act like nothing happened. No explanation, no acknowledgement, just business as usual. But the staff had seen the mugshot. Parents had seen it too. In a field where you work with vulnerable children, trust matters, reputation matters. And suddenly, the person who used to bark about professional standards was the center of whispered conversations. According to my friend, Jay was more irritable than ever, snapping at people, short-tempered, paranoid about who was talking to whom. That didn't surprise me. When someone builds their identity around authority, losing control shakes them hard. Then came the part that made me sit up. She got a card in the mail, my coworker said in the message. No name, just wow. I felt my heart jump a little. What do you mean? I typed back. She was in her office with the door open. I didn't see it, but I heard her say, "Are you kidding me?" And then she slammed the door. I didn't respond right away. I didn't need to. A few minutes later, another message came through. I don't know who sent it, but whoever did, that was savage. I couldn't help smiling. Not because I wanted her suffering, not because I enjoyed cruelty, but because for once, she felt what it was like to have her own words thrown back at her. For 5 years, she spoke without thinking about impact. She dismissed feelings, she minimized concerns, she used sharp words like tools. Now, a single sentence had rattled her. It was almost poetic. Over the next couple of weeks, I heard bits and pieces through the grapevine. Nothing official, just whispers. Parents were asking questions. Administration above her had started looking into things more closely. The DWI had triggered a review. In our field, even something unrelated to work can raise concerns about judgment. The irony wasn't lost on me. Judgment, responsibility, accountability, the very things she claimed other people lacked. One evening, I ran into another former colleague at a coffee shop. We hugged and caught up. Eventually, the conversation drifted to Jay, because somehow it always did. She's under a lot of pressure, my colleague said carefully. They're reviewing past complaints now. My stomach flipped. Past complaints. There had been many. Some I knew about, some I probably didn't. For years, concerns had been brushed aside, emails unanswered, reports delayed. Now, suddenly, people were digging. And when people start digging, they tend to find things. I drove home that night thinking about how different everything felt. When I worked there, raising concerns felt pointless, like shouting into the wind. Now, without me doing anything except sending one card, the system was moving. I didn't fool myself into thinking I caused it. The arrest did that. Her own choices did that. But sometimes a small reminder at the right moment hits harder than a big confrontation. A few days later, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. For a split second, my heart raced. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Hello? Silence. Then a familiar voice. You think you're funny? It was her, Jay.
After Jay resigned, the building didn't magically transform overnight. Toxic workplaces don't heal in a day. When someone controls a place through fear for years, that fear lingers even after they're gone. But something important had changed. People were talking. Not whispering in corners, not sending nervous late-night texts, openly talking. One of my old coworkers called me about 2 weeks after the resignation email went out. You wouldn't recognize the place, she said. There was a new interim director. From what I heard, she was calm, soft-spoken, the type who actually asked questions and then waited for answers. At the first staff meeting without Jay, the new director apparently said something simple. If there are concerns that were not handled properly in the past, I want to know. That sentence alone made people emotional, because for years, concerns weren't handled. They were dismissed. Staff started bringing up things that had been ignored. Missing supplies, documentation gaps, unreported complaints, policies that had been bent or flat out broken. And here's what surprised everyone. No one got yelled at. No one got humiliated. Instead, the new director said, "Okay, let's fix it." That word, fix, felt foreign in that building. For so long, problems were something you hid or survived. Now they were something you addressed. I felt a strange mix of emotions hearing all of this. Relief, mostly. Relief that the staff I cared about might finally breathe a little easier. Relief that the kids might finally get what they were supposed to have all along. And maybe, if I'm being honest, relief that my instincts had been right all those years. I wasn't dramatic. I wasn't weak. I wasn't not cut out for responsibility. I was trying to protect something that mattered. A month later, I met up with 2 former coworkers for dinner.
We hadn't all been in the same room since my goodbye party. There was laughter this time, real laughter, not the nervous kind we used to share after tense meetings. At one point, one of them leaned back in her chair and said, "Do you remember how scared we used to be of her?" We all went quiet for a second. It sounded ridiculous now, but it hadn't felt ridiculous then. When someone controls your schedule, your performance reviews, your reputation, fear feels very real. "She used to make me rehearse what I was going to say before meetings," one of them admitted, "just so I wouldn't mess up." I nodded. I used to do the same thing. We spent so much energy trying not to trigger her mood swings that we forgot what normal leadership felt like. And then one of them asked the question I'd been avoiding. "Do you regret sending the card?" I thought about it carefully. If you had asked me the day after I mailed it, I might have said yes. It felt bold, maybe even risky. But now? No, I said honestly. I don't. Not because it hurt her, but because it reminded me that I wasn't powerless anymore. For 5 years, she had the upper hand. She controlled the narrative. She framed anyone who disagreed with her as incapable. That card flipped the script in the smallest, simplest way. It didn't destroy her. It just held up a mirror. And sometimes that's enough. A few weeks later, I received an email from HR at my old organization. My heart skipped when I saw the sender. For a second, old anxiety tried to creep back in, but I opened it anyway. They were conducting a formal review of leadership practices during Jay's time as director. Since I had supervised staff directly under her, they wanted to know if I'd be willing to provide a statement. 5 years ago, I would have been terrified to respond. Now, I felt steady. I agreed. When I sat down to write my statement, I didn't exaggerate. I didn't attack her character. I didn't vent. I just told the truth about the ignored emails, about the missing supplies, about being pressured to do things that crossed ethical lines, about the child safety concerns that were dismissed. I wrote calmly, factually, clearly. And when I hit send, I felt something settle inside me. Not revenge, resolution. Months later, I heard through the grapevine that the organization had implemented new oversight policies, clearer reporting systems, mandatory leadership training, stricter accountability measures. It didn't undo the past, but it protected the future, and that mattered. One afternoon, while cleaning out an old drawer at home, I found the goodbye card from my last day again. I read through the messages slowly. My team had written things like, "You always stood up for us. Thank you for protecting the kids. You made this place better." For years, Jay's one sentence had overshadowed all of that. Now it looked small at the bottom of the page, almost insignificant. I realized something then. She thought responsibility was about control, but real responsibility is about impact. The kids I worked with, they were doing well. The staff I mentored, many of them had grown into leadership roles themselves. The program, it was improving. And me? I was no longer carrying someone else's chaos on my shoulders. If I'm being completely honest, the best revenge wasn't the card. It was this. I moved forward. I built a healthier career. I trusted my instincts again. And when I look back at those 5 years now, they don't feel like wasted time. They feel like proof. Proof that I can survive tough environments. Proof that I can stand firm when something isn't right. Proof that responsibility isn't about titles. It's about integrity. And in the end, that's something no mugshot can take away.
A year passed. If you had told me 2 years earlier that I would be in a leadership role, sleeping peacefully at night and not constantly second-guessing myself, I wouldn't have believed you. But here I was. My team was stable. Turnover was low. Parents were engaged. When problems came up, and they always do, we handled them openly. No fear, no shaming. And every now and then, I'd catch myself thinking, this is what it was supposed to feel like all along. Then, something unexpected happened. I received an email from my old organization again. This time, it wasn't about an investigation. It was an invitation.
They were hosting a panel discussion about improving workplace culture and ethical leadership in programs serving vulnerable populations. They wanted former and current leaders to share lessons learned. They asked if I would be willing to speak. I stared at the screen for a long time. Going back there, even just as a guest speaker, felt symbolic. That building held a lot of history for me. Part of me wanted to decline, close the chapter quietly, but another part of me felt like this was the real full circle moment. So I said yes. The day of the panel, I walked into the building and immediately noticed the difference. The atmosphere felt lighter. People were chatting in the hallway. Doors were open. When I worked there, doors were usually closed. I saw a few familiar faces. Hugs followed, smiles that didn't look forced. The conference room where the panel was held used to be the place where Jay would tear into staff during meetings. Sitting at the front of that same room now felt surreal. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't mention her by name. I didn't tell a dramatic story. Instead, I talked about what I learned from working in both healthy and unhealthy environments. I said this: leadership isn't about control. It's about creating safety. When staff feel safe, they do their best work. When concerns are heard instead of dismissed, programs improve. Responsibility means protecting the people who rely on you, especially when it's inconvenient. The room was quiet. I could see people nodding. After the panel, several staff members approached me. One younger employee said, "I didn't know what things were like before. Hearing that makes me appreciate where we are now." That meant more to me than any revenge ever could. Later, as I was walking out of the building, I paused in the hallway outside what used to be Jay's office. The name on the door was different now. I stood there for a moment, remembering how many times I had walked past that door, feeling anxious. Then I smiled. Not bitter, not angry, just grateful that I wasn't that version of myself anymore. A few weeks after the panel, I got a short message from an unknown number. It simply said, "I heard you spoke at the organization. I hope it went well." I knew who it was. Jay. There was no sarcasm, no sharp edge, just a sentence. I read it twice. 2 years ago, I might have ignored it or responded defensively. Instead, I replied, "It did. I talked about responsibility and workplace culture. I hope you're doing well too." She didn't respond, and that was okay, because I realized something important in that moment. The story was never really about getting back at her. It was about growth. For years, I thought she was the villain in my career story, but really, she was a lesson, a hard one, a painful one, but a useful one. Without that experience, I might not have understood how much leadership matters. I might not have recognized red flags so clearly. I might not have become as intentional as I am now. And here's the part that feels almost ironic. The best way I returned the favor wasn't the card. It was building the kind of workplace she never did. I make sure my team knows I appreciate them. I answer emails. If someone raises a concern about a child's safety, it becomes priority number one. And if someone disagrees with me, I don't punish them for it. Because responsibility isn't about being in charge. It's about being accountable. Every time I mentor a new supervisor, I tell them something simple. Your words stick. Be careful with them. I know that because hers stuck with me for years. Not everyone is cut out for responsibility. She meant it as an insult, but now I see it differently. She was right, just not about me. Responsibility requires humility. It requires self-awareness. It requires the ability to look in the mirror and admit when you're wrong. And if someone can't do that, eventually life does it for them. As for me, I no longer think about her with anger. I think about her as a turning point. Some people teach you how to lead. Others teach you how not to. Either way, the lesson is valuable. And that, more than any greeting card, is how I returned the favor.
Years have passed now.
If someone new met me today, they would never guess that I once spent 5 years doubting myself because of one person's leadership style. They would see someone confident, steady, and clear about boundaries. And that's the part that feels the most unreal. Because there was a time when I truly believed her words. When she wrote, "Not everyone is cut out for this level of responsibility," I carried that sentence with me longer than I want to admit. It echoed in quiet moments, when a project felt overwhelming, when I made a mistake, when I stepped into leadership for the first time. That sentence used to feel like a verdict. Now it feels like a misunderstanding. Recently, I was mentoring a new supervisor who reminded me of myself years ago, passionate, hardworking, but unsure. After a tough week, she sat in my office and said, "Maybe I'm not cut out for this." The words hit me like deja vu. I leaned back and smiled gently. "Being cut out for responsibility doesn't mean you never struggle," I told her. "It means you care enough to struggle the right way." She looked confused, so I explained. Responsibility isn't about knowing everything. It's about being willing to listen, to fix things, to admit when you're wrong, to protect people when it's inconvenient. As I spoke, I realized I was answering the version of myself from years ago. The one who sat in her car gripping the steering wheel after being laughed at. The one who felt small walking past a closed office door. The one who thought surviving was the same thing as succeeding. It wasn't. Surviving taught me resilience, but leaving taught me growth. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I had stayed longer, if I had kept swallowing my frustration, if I had accepted her version of leadership as normal. I might have become numb. I might have started repeating her phrases. "Be your own problem solver. That's why you're not the boss." Those lines could have become mine. That's the scary part about toxic environments. They slowly rewrite you if you're not careful. But I left, and in leaving, I chose who I wanted to be. Every now and then, I still think about the day I saw her mugshot online. The shock, the irony, the strange sense of balance. At the time, it felt like justice. Now, it feels like timing. Consequences come in their own season. You don't always get to see them. You don't always get closure. I happened to see it. But even if I hadn't, I would have still grown. I would have still built something better. That's what I understand now. The card was symbolic. It wasn't about humiliation. It wasn't about revenge in the dramatic sense. It was about reclaiming my voice. For 5 years, she had the last word. That card was the moment I quietly took it back. Not loudly, not publicly, just enough. And here's the truth that took me the longest to accept. I didn't need her to fall for me to rise. Her arrest didn't make me stronger. Her resignation didn't give me confidence. My choices did. Choosing to leave. Choosing to speak honestly when asked. Choosing to lead differently. Choosing not to let bitterness shape me. That's where the real power was. Last month, I cleaned out an old storage box and found that goodbye card again. I read her sentence one more time. It didn't sting, it didn't anger me, it barely moved me at all. I smiled, closed the card, and put it back, not as a reminder of pain, but as a reminder of progress. Not everyone is cut out for responsibility. She was right. But responsibility isn't about holding a title. It's about how you treat people when you have one. And in the end, that's the lesson I carry forward. Not because she meant to teach it, but because I chose to learn it.